Okay, can everyone see Chung? Does that look good, the first slide?
Looks great.
Great. Okay. So again, Yi Chung and I are going to be talking about a lot of different programs tonight. So as Yi Chung said, he is the director for the REU program, and I'm going to be talking about Oregon Sea Grant programs. And since Yi Chung is based at Hatfield, he'll also be telling us about other opportunities out on the coast. So internships and fellowships. Why do we do this? So it's a great opportunity to build experience. You can try on different areas of research and work, and ideally get paid for that. And it's really a way to try different areas of interest and see if you actually like them. And one thing that we always try and emphasize is that even if you get into a summer position and it's not the perfect fit, you're still gaining valuable insight and experience from that. So it's great to have that trial period. Sometimes we get students who think they absolutely want to do field research, and they get out there and they're in the mud or they're on a ship and they say, you know what, this actually isn't for me. I really love data science or robotics or things like that. So that's the beautiful part of these internships, is it gives you a chance to just try it on. You also are able to meet a lot of different people, especially when you're based places like the Hatfield Marine Science Center. There's just a huge network of professionals there. So it's a chance to have a mentor who can help guide you not only in your project, but also in your career and or graduate school goals, and someone that you can rely on often for letters of recommendation or references in future jobs. Ichung, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, just to reiterate that it's a great way to get some hands-on experience in a field that you might be interested in. And we always suggest doing internships to essentially get a taste of different things. And we consider a successful internship is one where you've discovered that there are some aspects of the internship that you really like, and there may be some aspects of the internship that you really do not like. And so that gives you a sense of what that is before committing to, say, a graduate program of 2 or 4 years, or certificate program before jumping into those.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I just want to show a couple pictures here. So some of these are of recent internships out on the coast. So we have a really wide variety of projects that happen in our internship programs. So we have some opportunities that are open for undergraduates. We have some that are open to undergrads and graduate students, mostly the OASIS program through Oregon Sea Grant. And Oregon Sea Grant is also fairly unique in that we accept recent graduates. So if you graduated in the 2025 or 2026 academic year, you can still apply to the Oregon Sea Grant opportunities. Most other undergrad internship programs do not allow recent graduates. So that's definitely something to look out for. We have internships in research, social science, education, outreach, sustainability and pollution prevention. And we're really keen to have students from all over Oregon and the US apply for these opportunities. Some of the opportunities you'll hear about tonight are only open to Oregon State University students, but several of them are open nationwide and also open to international students with a US student visa. And so here you can just see a variety of projects. We have some folks working on some fisheries research with ODFW. We have beaver-based restoration surveys going on. We have some social science surveys going on up at Haystack Rock, and then some oyster breeding research happening at Hatfield as well. So this is a list of all of the internship opportunities that we have available between Oregon Sea Grant and our Hatfield colleagues. This is just a partial screenshot here. So if you go to this QR code, it'll take you to a spreadsheet and you'll be able to view all of the Hatfield opportunities as well as our Oasis program, which is not based at Hatfield. So the blue links will take you to the websites. You'll see a couple do not have all of their information listed, so you can just go to the website to find out more. But tonight we'll be talking about the Summer Scholars Program, the Oasis Program, both part of Oregon Sea Grant. Chung will be talking about the Research Experiences for Undergraduates Program. We'll be talking about MACO, the Marine and Coastal Opportunities Program, and also the OSU Innovation Lab. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. This spreadsheet lists the date the programs begin, the date it ends, eligible applicants, and then a lot of other details that are helpful, including costs, whether housing is included, where they're located, and what sort of internship host mentors we have. And you'll also see the number of interns there. So you can see with Oregon Sea Grant, we have, 9 interns that we're hiring for each of our positions, and Chung's has, his REU program has 14 positions. So a really helpful, comprehensive, a snapshot of everything that's going on. Okay, so I'm going to launch into our Oregon Sea Grant opportunities. We're going to start with the Summer Scholars Program. So this program's open to undergraduate and recent graduates. We have sites throughout coastal Oregon, and we also have 3 remote opportunities at 2 host locations. So this year we have 8 host locations. We're hiring 9 interns on. It's a 10-week program. There is the potential for some flexibility on the end dates there. Out here, in Oregon, we're on the term schedule, so that's why those dates align with that. So if you need to go back to school a little bit earlier, I would just talk to the research coordinator if you're offered a position and see, or even in your interview and see if there's any flexibility there. Summer Scholars focuses on marine research, policy, social science, education, and outreach. Our host sites are government agencies, both state and federal, nonprofits, and community-based organizations, also sometimes municipalities. Often you're contributing to a multi-year project. There is on-site housing for this opportunity as long as it is not a remote position. Our remote positions do not offer paid housing. It's a $6,500 stipend, and applications are open now, and they're due on February 16th. So go to the Oregon Sea Grant website if you haven't already been. There's also a list of our 2025 hosts and descriptions. So of those positions. So you can see here we have 2 sites through the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife this year, both the Shellfish and Estuarine Assessment Program and the Marine Reserves Program. One of our remote sites is with the International Coastal Atlas Network, where you'll work on projects internationally. And we have also 2 remote scholars at the Oregon Coastal and Ocean Information Network. That is one where you'll see it's listed as hybrid. So if you'd like to have some office space, we can provide that. It's just housing's not provided. And then we have a fellow that will be doing marine education with Oregon Sea Grant and working in the Hatfield Visitor Center this summer. We'll have someone down at the South Slough National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is a beautiful spot. The Port of Port Orford is a new host for us, and we'll also have someone with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Pacific Shellfish Research Unit out at Hatfield. Again, if y'all have any questions along the way, just throw them in the chat or raise your hand. Okay, our second one we're going to talk about tonight for Oregon Sea Grant is the Oregon Applied Sustainability Internship. This is a little bit different than the others. So this is an interesting program and a really impactful one. It's funded by the Environmental Protection Agency's Pollution Prevention Grant, and Oregon Sea Grant administers this internship opportunity alongside the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. So Oregon DEQ serves as our technical expertise, and Oregon Sea Grant is really the administrative arm. So this is open to both undergraduate and graduate students. And I will note that you have to currently be a third or fourth year undergraduate student to apply to this position because you really need more advanced coursework. This program has some pretty robust deliverables that I'm happy to talk about later, or you're always welcome to look at our website and read more about it and reach out with follow-up questions. So this program places students with Oregon-based businesses. It's pollution prevention focused. Topics include things like waste stream management, compliance with wastewater permitting, sustainability, engineering, life cycle analysis, and other things that businesses need to understand their sustainability footprint. Um, so it comes with a $6,800 stipend. It's 11 weeks. The first week is mostly training. Housing's not provided, so we typically try and place students in areas where they can commute into their host sites. Often, you might only need to be at the host site 1, 2, 3 days a week, if that much. So a lot of it is research-based and working remotely as well. Applications for this one don't open until mid-March and they'll close April 16th. This is a little different than most of what you'll hear about tonight. Working with a business is a very different atmosphere than working with agencies or folks in academia. It's a lot more nimble. Everything kind of goes on a shorter time frame, and it's really often driven by looking at the bottom line. And so your job here is to demonstrate why sustainability makes sense financially. So the company will come up with some ideas of what they want to improve, in pollution prevention or sustainability initiatives, and then the intern will actually work to research those and find ideas, ways to implement those goals. And then what we're reporting back to the EPA is which of those goals were actually implemented and what sort of impact that has. So we're reporting things like CO2 emissions saved, energy reduced, water use reduced, things like that. And here's just one example that I'll highlight. So Zoe worked for Pacific Seafood in Clackamas, Oregon a couple years ago, and Pacific Seafood wanted to explore ways to reduce their plastic waste from their packaging and production processes. So she conducted a waste audit, which led to working with their packaging vendor to develop a smaller pouch for their pink shrimp line and then implemented a closed loop recycling system for all of their personal protective equipment and their stretch wrap. And so you can see here some numbers of what that eliminated. So it eliminated 15,000 kilograms of plastic production annually. It diverted 36 tons of plastic from the landfills every month and saved Pacific Seafood $84,000 a year. So really impactful program, and a really great one for students who are interested in environmental science, sustainability, green chemistry, engineering. We have a lot of engineering students apply. We've had math students. Both of these Oregon Sea Grant opportunities are open to all majors, so we love to have a variety of folks apply. Here's a list of last year's host businesses. We are still recruiting for 2026 host businesses. A couple that we're talking with right now include Local Oceans Fish Processing Facility, also Jacobson Sea Salt, Oregon Potato Company is coming back. Several of these 2025 host businesses will be returning. I can pause here just for maybe one or two questions if there are any specific questions about these two programs.
Yeah, Blaine, there are
Um,
some questions in the chat. In fact,
okay,
can I just read them to you?
that would be great.
All right. So one question is the hybrid positions. Are they required? Are you required to be on site?
For No, for Oregon, sorry, for the summer scholars, you are not required to be on site for those remote or hybrid positions. For the OASIS positions, you would need to be able to go to your host site. Um, yeah, I would say at least probably once a week or once every couple weeks. So you would need to be in the state of Oregon. And actually, that's one thing I forgot to mention. So summer scholars open to everyone, international students in the US and domestic students. The OASIS program is only open to students who are from Oregon. You can be going to a different college, but you must be from Oregon or you must be at an Oregon institution. So that is an important difference there.
So another question for the Summer Scholars Program, should we indicate which host sites we are most interested in with the application?
Yeah, great question. So the application does have a form where you will be able to rank your top three sites, and we have that for summer scholars and for Oasis.
Okay. And then looks like one final question is a student's interested in the Oregon Sea Grant Marine Education Program and the South Slough National Estuarine Research Reserve. However, they have a study abroad trip until about mid-July. Would they be able to shift the 10-week time period to be from July to September, or should they not apply this year?
Yeah, unfortunately, that probably will not work. But yeah, it's just it's too far back. And most of these hosts really want people in that time frame. But I would say you could reach out to me over email and we'll share that at the end and we can talk about it a little more. Yeah. One other thing I did want to note is that the position descriptions for summer scholars are currently on our website. So if you want to see those, go ahead over to the website. You can also go to the Oasis website, and I'll share this in the chat here in a second, and you can view last year's position descriptions just to get an idea of what the projects look like. Obviously, they will change for this year, but there's just a lot of information there that you can look at this point. All right. I will turn it over to you, Ichung.
Okay, great. Thanks. So clear that Oregon Sea Grant has two wonderful internship programs, and I just want to pitch them again. The Summer Scholars Program and the Oasis program, and talk about a unique program. Oasis really puts students in industry, and I have even heard stories of students saving companies so much money that they were hired as a full-time employee to continue working in their role because they saved enough money from that for that company to actually fund a position in the company. So that's really remarkable, and that is just a really sustainable model. So
Yeah.
um, all right, so the Hatfield Marine Science Center. So this is Oregon State University's Marine Science Center on the Oregon coast, Central Coast, located here in Newport, Oregon, where I'm located right now. Beautiful coastline, about 3 hours from Portland, 2 hours from Eugene, which are the two major airports. I'm going to talk a little bit about the REU program, the MACO program, and the iLab. Let's see, next slide. So this is our new Gladys Valley Marine Studies building. This is the first building of its kind on the west coast of the United States. It's 3 stories high. It's built to withstand and continue operating after a tsunami. This is in a tsunami evacuation center up at the top, and when you come here, you'll see why. It's built with a ramp up to the rooftop and a whole series of access points to go up to the top. This is just one of many buildings on our 49-acre campus, located right on Yaquina Bay, right here in Newport. And so students generally will be housed at our brand new housing facility called the um, Harborton Hatfield Housing, which is up on the hill outside of the tsunami inundation zone. and students will go back and forth between housing and our labs and the center here. This is a cluster of actually not just RU interns, but all of our summer interns that were out here this past summer here in Newport. Next slide with their mentors. And so here you can see our new lovely building. It was finished in 2020. That's when we got the keys to it, and then we have classes, labs. The top floor has our Marine Mammal Institute. Second floor has our second floor has a marine genomics lab, and then we have a series of different classrooms and labs on the first floor. And then the innovation lab is that building on the left connected to it, along with a large amphitheater. And you can see in the distance behind the building is Yaquina Bay, the Newport Bridge, and then the ocean. So the summers are just gorgeous out here. So, and if you see the QR code in the bottom right, that will take you quickly to the website of the REU program from estuaries to the deep sea. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the program runs June 15th to August 22nd. So that's essentially Monday, June 15th is the expected date that you should be arriving. August 22nd is the Saturday following the final week of the program where you need to depart back home. It is a 9 to 10 week program, and I say 9 to 10 week because our program runs on the quarter system, and we recognize that there are some students who are on the semester system, and classes may start that final week of the program. And so some students may opt to leave the program a week early to go back to school. The program has multiple options of being in person at the Marine Science Center, hybrid, where part of the time you're at the Marine Science Center, and then fully remote. Um, the program is supported by the National Science Foundation. Essentially, I tell students uh, the program introduces you to a lot of research areas that range from marine and estuarine science, dealing with real world problems. We have students who come from different backgrounds, from biology, chemistry, earth science, physics, environmental science, mathematics, computer science, engineering. Um, Students get to essentially spend 10 weeks or 9 weeks pretending to be a graduate student for the summer. Um, Students are located usually at the Marine Science Center, although we may have one or two students who are working with the Marine Mammal Institute, in which case they'll spend a portion of their time at the Marine Science Center. And then the rest of the field season will happen on the southern Oregon coast at the Port Orford Field Station in Port Orford, Oregon. Let's see here. Uh, Stipends. All interns receive a $700 week stipend. We provide and cover housing on site at Hatfield and Port Orford. And wherever you are, we will fly round trip from your home institution to our location here in Oregon, and then ground transportation from the airport to the Marine Science Center. Next slide, please. All right. So here's another picture of another cohort of summer interns of previous years. And so just to break it down, there's on-site and hybrid opportunities. This is a great opportunity for community college students who are seeking opportunities to get their hands wet or get some field experience or lab experience. It's 10 weeks, so essentially not 70,000. No, that's a misprint there. 7,000 housing on site. And then our application does not require any letters of recommendation. We do ask you to list 3 references, and if you are selected, we will contact those references. No transcripts, although in the application, we would like you to list courses that are relevant to the internship. And then there's a series of short personal statements built into the online application. Next slide, please. Thanks, Blaine. So this is just a picture, a snapshot of some of our interns that have gone through our program. In fact, I just saw Abby Kong just the other day in Corvallis. She's actually at Amherst College, but her partner is at Oregon State University. And I just ran into her, which was really wonderful at a science art event. But she worked in Sue Spanagel's lab looking at plankton ecology. We have folks who are looking at microplastics, other folks who are looking at fisheries management, other folks who are doing modeling, and then other folks who are doing open ocean sampling and aquaculture. So a wide range of different projects. Next slide. And here's another group of interns. A couple of these interns spent a lot of their time at Port Orford Field Station, where they participated and worked with the Oregon Kelp Alliance, doing some snorkeling, sampling, surveying. We had other students who were essentially working with the Marine Mammal Institute, doing data analysis of blue whale data, minke whale data, bioacoustics. And then we had other folks who were working with some of our government agency partners, like NOAA. We had several students who were working with the NOAA Northwest Fishery Science Center and the Alaska Fishery Science Center, essentially doing work on species that may be impacted by ocean acidification or global sea warming. So all these different things are possible through this NSF REU program. All right, next slide. Okay, so that's the REU program. And I will highlight that the REU program here at Hatfield, we generally take I think it's 90% of our selected students are not from Oregon State University. And so if you're an Oregon State University student looking to apply to an REU program, the recommendation is that you apply to an REU program at another institution. The idea is that the REU programs were designed by the National Science Foundation for students to experience R1 research opportunities where they may not have access to research opportunities during their regular academic year. So that being said, we do take occasionally an OSU student in our Hatfield REU program. Now, opposite to that, we have the Marine and Coastal Opportunities, what we call MACO summer internships here at Oregon State University. And MACO has I believe, two internships that are available through Oregon State University for Oregon State Universities and Oregon Community College students. Also, most of these internships run 10 weeks, June 15th to August 21st. The two internships that are available through MACO this year are both a social science and a natural science experience, and the applications will be open in late February. Okay, and then the Innovation Lab, or otherwise known as the iLab. This is a lab here at the Marine Science Center that really partners marine scientists and engineers to work on advancing tools for research in the marine environment. And so we get to prototype, design, and develop new tools for sampling, surveying, and collecting data. Next slide, please. So Drummond Wingrove is the director of the iLab, and these are some images that he's highlighted of the design and development. And they've got everything from working on electronics to using routers to create casings out of different types of alloys and metals for deep sea pressure instruments, 3D printers, drill presses, all kinds of equipment in this large innovation lab. So similar to a makerspace, but with clearly a lot more tools. Some of them are actually commercial grade equipment for making and designing new things. And so these projects then get tested out in the wild. So here you have everything from applications to drones. So that orange 3D printed container there or casing um, uh, was made and built to connect to that drone for the Marine Mammal Institute. We have the box core on the far right. This is a sediment core that's dropped over a ship and goes straight down to the bottom. And once it hits the bottom of the ocean, it digs in and takes a foot of mud and then brings it up. The orange little thing that you see to the right of it is a sensor letting us know that it goes directly straight down versus at an angle. So they have a little gyroscope in there. And so that was an add-on to that built through the Innovation Lab. And then other things on how we can use optics underwater. And so there's a lot, and hydrophones. So a lot of different instrumentations that are being experimented on and improved on through the iLab. Next slide, please.
B. Chung, can I interrupt you for 1 second with a question
Sure.
while we're in between? Well, I'll let you finish this and then we'll ask an RAU question. How about that?
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, so the iLab has these internships called the Roundhouse Summer Internships. Students will focus on engineering design associated with studying the marine world. You can see right there new project ideas or ones proposed by the iLab manager, Drummond Wengrove. Interns work on designing and manufacturing short-term projects. This actually tends to be a year-round position for Oregon State University students. And they typically start in the summer. So it's a year-long part-time internship with an intensity in the summer. Housing is provided on the HMSC campus, and you get an hourly pay of $16.50 an hour. Applications will be accepted in the spring.
Yeah, thanks, you, Chung. Um, so a question about the RAU program. Where can folks find information about RAU programs at other colleges?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so let me just kind of let me just for all the folks that are on here, the um, the website, the internet. If you
Yeah.
Google NSFREU, that'll take you to a government website. That government website will have is the platform for the National Science Foundation, lists all the current programs. What's amazing about the National Science Foundation program, the REU program, is that they have REU programs in so many different disciplines. So our REU program happens to be in geosciences slash marine sciences. Okay. There are also REU programs in biology, computer science, informatics, chemistry, biochemistry, physics, all these different fields. And you can actually look for NSF REU chemistry or math or physics, and it will pull up a whole bunch of different programs. And so the National Science Foundation funds many REU site programs, which we are. We're an REU site, meaning we have a cluster of interns that are supported. Now, there are many faculty who have an NS. This is probably a little more than you need to know, but hey, it's good to know even for the future. If a researcher, a faculty at an institution has a National Science Foundation Research Award that they are essentially doing research using that, they can ask for an NSF REU supplemental to add on one or two undergrads to work on the project in their lab. And that's a case by case basis. And so every once in a while, you'll see a opening for like only one or two positions in a lab through the NSF REU. But it's different from an REU site program. But if you go to NSF REU, that will take you to all the different site programs, and you can actually go, I believe, by state. Um, Now, I have to highlight one major caveat. So we are one of the longest marine science RU programs in the country here at the Hatfield Marine Science Center. But every 3 years, we apply competitively with everyone else in the country for 3 more years of funding to support the program. This year happens to be, this summer happens to be the first year of that 3 year cycle. And unfortunately, we will not know if we have funding for this program probably until late March, early April, when the government lets us know. And that's just what we have to do every 3 years. We still do the recruiting. We still announce that the program's going. We select all of our mentors. We select our students. We provide an offer letter. And that offer letter says, you get all this. And then there's a big asterisk, a big note that says, based on successful NSF funding of this REU site. So I wanted to put that out there because I wanted to be transparent. And With the current situation, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I am optimistically hopeful that we will be refunded again for another 3 years. Like I said, we this will be, I think, our 23rd year of the program. So, okay.
Great. Thanks, Chung. All right. Well, I will turn the chat monitoring over to Chung and get started on our next set of slides. So, applying to internships. So now we're going to talk about sort of the process of applying and also some tips and tricks, and then we'll be able to answer any questions you have. If you have questions about slides along the way, feel free to put it in the chat, and Chung can interrupt me as well. So we'll talk about the application review process, what that criteria looks like, application materials, and then some tips and tricks. I will just throw out that obviously every application process is different. So the application review process looks different for the RAU program than it does for the Summer Scholars program. What I'm going to do today is talk generally about what the Oregon Sea Grant review criteria looks like, and then Chung can chime in if he has anything to add as well. But it's, a pretty general overview of what internship programs often go through when they're evaluating applications. So we do get hundreds of applications. And so we'll talk a little bit about how to make your application stand out. The first step is we check to see if applications are complete. So it's a really good idea to check and double check and triple check before you submit your application. Oftentimes these applications are open for over a month, so take your time, come back, check, have someone read it for you. We have 3 reviewers for each application at Oregon Sea Grant. And we use a weighted scoring rubric to go through those applications. And then we have a meeting after application review where panelists can come together and advocate for certain students in that meeting that they think would be a good fit for those specific positions. Top applicants will go on to 2 rounds of interviews for Oregon Sea Grant. The first interview will be an internal interview where you'll be talking to Oregon Sea Grant staff. And then we will narrow down the pool a bit through that process, and then we will send up to 3 candidates on to our host site mentor, where they will do a second round interview with students. Both of ours are virtual. And then at the end, the host site gives us a ranked list, number 1, 2, and 3 of candidates. And we then place students in what we think is the best match for both the host and for the student. If a student is a number one candidate at two different sites, then we let the student choose which site they would prefer. Ichung, anything you want to add here that may differ or be of interest for folks in the REU program?
Yeah, essentially we run the same thing, and we do have interviews via Zoom and with the top selected applicants with the lab. Um, in our application process, you need to select your top three mentors that you would like to work with. And so if you look at our REU website, webpage, there's a mentor page, and then you look at the mentors and the research projects that are going on in those labs. Then you would address your application based on your top three mentors that you would like to work with in the summer. And so, based on that, we do the matching.
Great, thanks. Okay, so here's an example of our review criteria. So this is something that the reviewers are going to see on their end when they're looking at applications. So um, you can see here things are weighted in different ways, and in the order of importance, we have a list here. But the most important piece for us is we want to know why this experience will be a beneficial experience for you. So you want to tell your personal story. That plays into the review panel. Don't hesitate to tell us why it's important. Bring in a personal element. It helps us get a sense of who you are. Number two is your ability to articulate short and long-term goals, telling us about your major and why you chose it, plans for the next academic year or after, if that's something that you feel like you have a good grasp on. Three, reflecting on how your lived experiences and your interactions with communities that differ from your own, how that has played a part in your life. Number four, expanding on your interests. Do you have a personal story that you can relate that led you towards marine science or whatever your area of interest is? Number five, how well you articulate in your writing, how well you're following directions and answering all the questions. This is something that I will reiterate is it's really important to read through the application questions and then read through what you've written and make sure you've answered all the questions. Especially when people are asking about your major or asking you to explain which positions you're interested in and why. That's really important for the review team to see. And then lastly is evaluating other factors, which include your personal history and how they align with your goals. So that can include coursework you've taken, extracurricular activities, jobs you've had. So tying all of those things into why you're interested in the position. We do at Oregon Sea Grant will request transcripts, but we do not evaluate our applications based on people's GPA. It's simply a way for us to see what coursework you've taken. Okay, and then looking at the application components. This is fairly typical of what you'll see out there. Each internship will vary as to what they ask for, but they almost always ask for a resume or a CV. A resume is just a shortened version. We ask for a two-page resume, up to 2 pages. So if you send a 3 or 4 page resume, what will happen is from an equity standpoint, we have to cut that off at 2 pages because everyone else has turned in 2 pages. So what will happen is we'll have to remove any excess pages from the resume and it will be an incomplete picture. So make sure you're reading in detail those application components so that you don't have anything taken out of your application. So a resume, and then you're going to have either a narrative or questions or a cover letter that folks ask for. You can see here number two, we ask for 5 different questions to be answered in an essay style format. You'll see here it says 250 words or less. So we do ask people to stick to that as well, just so that everyone's getting the same shot at answering those questions. Um, we will ask for transcripts. The REU program, it sounds like, does not ask for transcripts, so that just depends. And it's just an unofficial transcript. Again, we are not looking at GPA. And then we're asking for a list of 3 references. We don't ask for letters of recommendation. Some folks will, and we'll talk about that a little later. And then there's usually an interview, either 1 or 2 rounds. And we can also talk about that or answer questions if you have any. Yi Chung, anything you want to add here?
Nope, this looks great.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Yi Chung unless there's any specific questions we should answer right now.
There's a question in the chat. Is there a specific way I should style my resume, or should I just write it like an essay?
Yeah, good question. So I would go online and I would Google examples of resumes and maybe even, looking into science resumes and things like that. Yi Chung and I could give a couple tips right now about things we like to see and not see. I would say pay attention to your formatting, look up, the proper ways to format a resume. One thing that I do see sometimes, that I'm not a fan of is when people just list either work experience or volunteer experience and the date, and then there's no information about what they did under it. So I know you only have 1 to 2 pages, but you want to paint a picture. You want to tell us what you did in that position. So, add at least 1, 2, 3, a couple bullet points as to what you were doing. Um, Including your contact information on there is great. We do ask that you don't include a picture. Um, and I think probably most folks do that as well, just from an equity standpoint. Yi Chung, anything else you want to add on resume um,
Yeah,
tips?
yes. Yeah, so for the REU program, we don't accept a resume and we don't
Okay,
accept a cover letter. So all of it's built into the online application. But I will provide this feedback for resumes and cover letters. Um, so just to give you a sense, the number of applicants that we get in these programs are in the hundreds. And so when we're reviewing applications, we're looking for things that are concise, to the point, um, that really highlight your highlight you, this uniqueness of you. Um, and I think that's really important, especially with new students who are trying really hard to get their foot in the door in an internship experience. Like the RU program specifically is really tailored, I think, for students who don't have a lot of research experience. That you actually we encourage students who don't have a lot of research experience to apply for an RU program to get their first step into the program. Not saying that you don't have any experience because you have a strong academic record or you have other experiences, but you don't have a lot of research experience. So that is key in your resumes, in your cover letters for students in the junior, senior level who may have done some volunteer experience or some internship, or even a course that required another level of work that is research like a cure course. Um, you want to highlight that and why that was significant for you and why you're pursuing this in your cover letter and in your resume.
great. Thank you. Yeah. And I'll reiterate the Oregon Sea Grant internships, we are also looking to give folks experience that haven't necessarily had it before. So don't be discouraged if you've never, had a volunteer position or worked in a lab or in the field. Apply and paint that picture for us. Tell us why you're passionate about what you're studying and why you want to do this. That's what we're looking for. Um, okay, Yi Chung, I will turn this over to you now.
Okay. So tips and is this the slide I'm focusing on?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, really, again, really important to follow the directions of your application. I will tell you that time and time again, we get students who apply for multiple internships, and they say they're applying for our Oregon State University Hatfield Marine Science Center REU program, but in their materials they say, "Oh, uh, I really want to work with so and so at Monterey Bay, Monterey Bay, Cal State Monterey Bay's program," and it clearly it was like a copy and paste, and so just some attention to detail to your applications will be really good because if we come across that, essentially we may just dump that application. Okay, so really follow directions, pay attention that you're applying to the right program. Really highlight your passion, your interests. It may be something that has sparked, and you have some questions about the field or this particular area. It never hurts to do a little bit of research of who the people you are applying to work for. So this is kind of your first step at like a real job application where you are doing the legwork to understand the research environment, the work environment that you're going to be going into potentially, who this mentor is and what kind of research have they been doing? What are the questions that they're asking? What questions align with what you're vibing with? Like, why does, you know, being more general about sustainability or global warming or climate change or management, fisheries man, you want to dig a little bit deeper, show a little bit more of a, I don't know, say show that you're actually doing a little bit of uh, work to understand what lab you're wanting to work in or what research area that you want to work in. Okay. Um, give some real examples of your past, whether it's problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork. Those three things are really important. Responsibility, dependability, um, the ability to ask questions, was the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. So highlight, how you are uh, really intellectually thinking about this particular internship and the work that you're wanting to do. And then also highlight your goals. A lot of folks in our applications will say, I'm interested in graduate school. That's fine. Maybe a little bit more than that. So, can you tell us a little bit more of like, okay, graduate school, why are you wanting to go to graduate school? What's the next step beyond graduate school? What is the thing that is driving you or is interesting in why you're interested in it? And also you can be honest, like, well, I have this really interesting background here and this interesting background here, and I'm kind of wanting to merge those two. Or I have this interest, but none of that is really accessible from where I'm located right now. And these are the ways that I'm trying to get that experience or access that experience, even though it's not available to me right here. So be forthcoming and honest with where you're at and where you're trying to go. And that really will serve you, even if you don't get into these applications, it'll serve you moving forward into the next position, the next direction that you're going. Because if you don't get in this internship, it's not the end of the world. I always tell students we have more students who do internships and do research in labs through the informal pathway into a lab. This is a bottleneck of applications for specific programs with specific numbers of students that we accept. There are a horde of students who go and talk to and interview a researcher or a lab or a graduate student and ask them about their research. Can I volunteer in your lab? And at some point they get their foot in the door and they volunteer. And after a term that they've volunteered at, essentially they become part of that lab. They become a paid intern or a paid student researcher in that lab. So we see way more students come in through that avenue. But clearly, this is one avenue of getting that experience. Okay. Um, is there anything? Oh, I'm seeing a number of questions. Do you sideline environmental studies app? No, we do not sideline environmental studies applicants. Resume building and rating online. Okay, great. That's a great resource, Lauren, for sharing. Thank you. Any questions, folks? Timeline for RU. My university allows geology graduates to walk in the spring despite still having to take field camp during the month of May as our last class. So we don't technically graduate until August. Would I be able to apply for the REU despite my graduation date being spring? No, unfortunately, for the REU program, you have to be an enrolled student in the fall. So if you're not
Yeah,
an enrolled student in the fall, you cannot apply for the REU program.
yeah, you could apply for the Oregon Sea Grant programs if those interest you.
Okay. Letters of recommendation. One of the best ways to get a really strong letter of recommendation is give your letter writer lots of time. So contact them ahead of time, let them know that you're applying for this particular program and share with them the information about that program and ask them point blank, just be direct. Would you feel comfortable writing a strong letter of recommendation or be a strong reference for me? If not, that's a fine. I'll find someone else. But you want to make sure that the person who can write a letter or be a strong reference say that they can be. Otherwise, it's just taking up space. You're filling a blank, and you want a letter or a reference to advocate for you and your application. And the best way to do that is to provide your letter writer or your reference uh, the name of the program, the deadline of the application or the letter of reference, and ideally a copy of your application so they know where you're coming from. And you can feel free to write them a cover letter stating, oh, could you highlight this and this and this about me in your experience working with me. So you really want to provide those materials to be able to make it as easy as possible for your reference to write a strong letter of recommendation for you. So you provide material, yeah, bullet points on the internship, bullet points on why you're a good fit, different info for different writers and reference. Yeah, and so different references can highlight your dependability and responsibility. Another one can say something about more about your intellectual critical thinking or observation skills, or another one could be your writing skills. So you want to be able to strategize, especially if you can include three letters. And again, give them lots of lead time and send reminders. Any questions? Tips and tricks. Interviews. All right. So the interviews. Now this is good, and I will state that always good to practice interviews. At your home institution, there's usually a career center, and you can do mock interviews. I recommend doing that. You can ask for interview questions ahead of time. Feel free to do that. They may or may not provide them, but it's always good to ask. Uh, Ask who will interview you, how many and who they are. And I know in our program that they generally will reach out and let you know who will be interviewing you. And usually the PI, their faculty mentor, and maybe another person from the lab, or it just might be the faculty mentor. Figure out the technology, right? So you want to find a space where you can do a video conference call via Zoom, ideally in a room where there's not a lot of interruption, um, and you have a strong internet connection. Uh, you can always practice standard questions ahead of time. There are a lot of them available online if you look up undergraduate internship interview questions. Use professional demeanor and so practice. I know folks get really nervous and anxious about that, but that's why you should practice with mock interviews. But be professional. Uh, yeah, I mean, you don't want to be doing all kinds of things at the same time or trying to manage other things. You want that full undivided attention. It is an interview. Pay attention to time. Pay attention to your speaking. And so if you run on and on and on, or if you're using a lot of likes and thens, or you want to speak clearly, calmly through that. And you also want to be yourself too. Ideally, the more you be yourself, which can be difficult in a formal interview process, I think the better you'll be going into the interview. And then I always recommend that when you are doing interviews to have your materials, your application materials in front of you, printed on paper on the table. Have a copy of your cover letter, have a copy of your resume, have a copy of the responses in your application right in front of you so that you can reference that. You don't have to hide it either. You can let them know, I have all my materials here. I just want to be able to answer your question thoroughly, just to remind me of all this stuff. That shows some preparation, attention to detail, and yeah, so that's really good. Okay. I'm trying to think of any other things. I can't.
Just having, I would say, add to a couple things. Have some questions prepared at the end. That always shows that you've taken time to think through things and that you have interest. Um, Thinking about, and each touched on a little bit, but I've seen folks sitting in their bed to take an interview. Don't, really think about where you are, what's behind you, things like that. We do have a question about how concise you should be during interview questions. Yeah, muting your phone, that's a good point. And I will say I have a really hard time with interviews. I get really nervous. I try and rush through the questions, but it's the only chance you get to sell yourself outside of what you've produced in writing, right? So, I would say if you have a 30-minute interview and you have, 10 questions, you think, okay, I need to spend about 3 minutes. Take as much time as you can to give as much information as possible. You still want to be clear and concise, but you also need to give the full picture. So that's just one thing I would say. A lot of times people just really rush through, which is totally understandable. But this is your chance to let folks know about you and about your experience and about why you want that position.
One other thing I also would want to share is that even if you feel like you bombed in the interview or you felt like you forgot something, there's no harm in doing a follow-up email or a follow-up phone call and say, hey, this I felt like this and this and this, and I missed, and I wanted to just share this piece that didn't come out in the interview, and I want to thank you all for your time. Thanks for the opportunity to interview for this position, and I look forward to hearing from you either way. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I will still be interested in the future to um, be in this lab or be in this type of work. So don't ever burn bridges. Always just let them know, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Hmm. Yeah, great point. Yeah, you've got humans on the other side, right, who've all been in your position. So just remember that. Um, yes, I think I do believe I always include that in our emails about who will be interviewing folks. But always fine to email back and ask questions about what the interview will look like. I will say also one note is, when these internship application periods are happening, it is a very, very busy time for folks. So just recognizing, that sometimes have a little patience for email replies and things like that. Because often, we're interviewing 8 hours a day and it takes some time to get back to folks. So just having a little patience and understanding about that is also helpful. So at this point, any other questions we can answer? Our contact information is right here. Feel free to reach out. Please do refer back to that spreadsheet that we shared. If you want me to pull it up again, I can do that. But those links will have all of the information you need. So I would definitely also recommend make sure that you've thoroughly looked through all the application materials and the background information about the internships before reaching out with questions. We are always happy to reach out with questions, but do your homework first for sure. Um, if you're not selected for a position, is it customary to thank the interview panel? Do they expect a thank you? I would say they don't expect a thank you, but it always is a nice thing to do, and I think it does stand out. I once got a job because I followed up with a thank you after the interview. I didn't know whether I had it yet, but it was even between me and one other person, and I was the only one who wrote a thank you note, and so that's why I got it. So, it's always good to think about things like that. Any other questions or comments from Yi Chung? Any links that you all feel like you'd like to have in the chat? Um, does everyone feel like they can find things? Use social media information to show results about study. This the social media piece to show results. Is that from work that you've had? I tell you what, follow up with me on email because I know you're applying, Fabian Thurat, to the summer scholars. So follow up with me and we can chat on that. And I also do want to say if you have started a summer scholars application and after this workshop you're thinking, oh shoot, I wish I'd, you know, gone into more detail about my personal background. The summer scholars applications can be edited up until the due date on February 16th. So even if you've submitted that application, you can still go into EC Grant and change anything you'd like. Thank you so much for showing up, everyone. We can answer a few more questions if you want to stick around, but I'll just say thank you to everyone who wants to hop off. We really appreciate you all being here and hope to see some applications come through.
Yeah. Someone's asking if they could have the link to the spreadsheet. I can do maybe a screenshot.
Yeah, I think I have it in the notes too. Let me just go back there. There we go. Okay, here is the spreadsheet, and there's the QR. Oops. I did not mean to do that. Direct message. Let me try again. Okay, that's the spreadsheet. I'm going to stop sharing because it's easier to use things. Thanks, Chung.
Yeah.
Transcripts, you can make a PDF of transcripts and upload them into the application. If anyone has trouble using or accessing PDF documents, our application system does require PDFs just because that's how it's made, but we don't want that to be a barrier. So if you can't create a PDF for some reason, reach out to us and we can help you with that. Okay, any other questions out there?
All right.
Is there a
Well,
separate Zoom orientation for graduate student opportunities? There often is one. So Stephanie, my colleague, often um, does those. And let me see, I'm gonna pull up a link to a page where you can find that information. So just hold tight. So this is the Oregon Sea Grant resources page, and there is um, a recorded workshop for graduate level opportunities. So for the Summer Scholars references, I would suggest going onto the website and looking at the application, and it'll tell you exactly what we're looking for, but it's just a list of 3 references. It's not letters.
or you could be enrolled in a certificate program in the fall. Adina, would you be would you have your degree in hand?
Um, hey, I have my degree. I was just wondering, I'm thinking about enrolling in a certificate program with
Okay.
PSU. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that would uh
No,
make me qualified.
that wouldn't qualify. You still need to be an undergrad. Yeah,
Got
a
it.
non-graduated undergrad.
Got you.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like folks are hopping off. So thanks again and have a good night, everybody.